This episode was brought to you by Awesome, AWSM. Awesome makes it possible for consumer brands to reward and motivate their customers with equity ownership. People that have even small amounts of ownership in a brand spend twice as much money per year, are loyal 3 times longer, and are twice as likely to refer their friends and family. Learn more at awesome.com, AWSM.com. Okay, welcome to Brand Sweat and Tears podcast. Today, I have a couple of rock stars in the studio. We got Sadie and Abby, and it's Bowler or Bowler?
Yes, Bowler.
Okay, I wanted to make sure I pronounced that right. Sadie and Abby Bowler from SadieB. And there's no correlation between your name and the brand of the company. Is that correct?
Well,
just a coincidence, a crazy coincidence.
Yeah, actually, probably the number one question I get asked is, why isn't it SadieB? I'm like, we didn't even think of that.
Yeah.
SadieB, it's a much better fit. I like it.
Yeah, well, it's a great name. And I definitely, you guys are going to have to tell the story of like, how did you even come up with the name? I mean, how did it end up being that name, right? Totally. Like come up with it. But, so anyway, I'd love to hear that. And we'll get into kind of like how this all came about, but excited to have you guys in the studio. Thanks for making the time. And I think this will be a really fun story, especially because I think I have some nieces and some girls in my neighborhood that are huge fans and customers. So this will be a fun, story for them to hear, how this all came about.
Good to hear. We're happy to hear that.
Well, thanks for coming. Okay. So where we're going to start is let's start with the origin story. Like, how did this even come to be?
Yeah, so SadieB is very much a product of Sadie and I's different interests, and that's kind of where our story begins. And my part of it really in high school, my senior year of high school into my freshman year of college, I had the opportunity to interned with the International Rescue Committee in Salt Lake.
Cool.
And we partnered with local brands to do a fundraiser for one of their programs, including brands like Cotopaxi and Traeger Grills and Creminelli. And so we did this fundraiser for one of the IRC's programs, and that experience totally opened my eyes to the power of using business for good and social impact and like purpose-driven business. And I absolutely fell in love with it and knew that's what I wanted to do with my career. And then I'll have Sadie explain her piece that led to kind of the conversations that were the early start of SadieB.
Yeah, so when I was 11 years old, I started styling hair. So
At 11?
At 11,
wow.
I started an Instagram account. I would watch hours and hours of YouTube videos and practice different braids and hairstyles on Abby and then on our little sister.
Abby was the guinea pig.
Abby was the guinea pig.
I also never learned how to do my own hair, which is
so you were happy.
The downside to that,
okay.
But whatever.
All right, make it look good, whatever.
Yeah, but I just loved it. And so I learned everything that I could about it, and I started this Instagram account that when I was 11 years old, I named Hair as My Canvas. I just pulled it straight off of Pinterest.
Okay.
And I continued that into high school. Eventually started doing hair for school dances and then entire wedding parties.
Wow.
And it was
Wait, so by the time you got to high school, how many years have you'd been doing this for like 6, 7, 8 years already?
Yeah.
And then how big did the Instagram account get?
I had a few thousand followers. It wasn't massive, but it was something that people knew about, and they would be like, oh yeah, your hair is my canvas.
Okay.
Like by the time I was 18, I'd be like, yes.
All right. Well, but so I guess what I was leading to is like you were really doing advertising, or was this like almost all like word of mouth and social, like people knew?
Oh yeah, it was totally just word of mouth.
Okay.
And so when I was 14, I did hair for my first wedding, and then just continued down that path, and it was a great high school job, but it immersed me in the beauty and personal care industry at a really young age. Mm-hmm. And so Abby, was having this incredible experience seeing how businesses can be used for good and make an impact for good in the world. And I was immersed in the beauty and personal care space discovering this need for girls. I was constantly being bombarded with the messages that I needed to look a certain way to be considered good enough. And at the time, I was a student in high school, and these claims told me that it would make me shiny and touchable and voluminous and all these things. And as a high school student, I was focused on my AP classes, on my friendships, on the sports I was doing, on preparing for college and all those things. And I felt like those messages were unhelpful and even harmful to my mental health and my self-confidence. And so that is where the idea for SadieB came from. And we created SadieB to flip the script in the beauty industry, to uplift girls and their abilities and accomplishments, focus on their personal development, and speak to what really matters to them, rather than throwing these unrealistic and unfair beauty standards at them.
That's really, really cool. So how old were you, Abby, when you did this? I mean, was it an internship basically, or okay?
Yeah, I was 18. I had just turned 18 and was finishing my senior year of high school.
Okay. So you came out of this with this cool thing. Did it immediately make you want to start a business right then, or what was your mindset?
No, it definitely didn't. I definitely imagined myself going down a path where I joined a purpose-driven company like Cotopaxi. Obviously, they're local and we love them. But really the idea for creating SadieB didn't come until later, when Sadie and I were actually on a backpacking trip with our dad in Canada. And in preparation for that trip, we were looking for products that we could use in the parks. There were specific requirements, like ingredients.
Environmentally friendly kind of stuff. Okay.
Exactly. And so we were on a hunt for products we could take, and didn't find a ton of options. One option that we did find, I think ended up landing on, was Dr. Bronner's and soap, and it's 7-in-1. It's a laundry detergent, a soap, a shampoo.
Wait, laundry detergent and a shampoo?
Yeah.
That sounds so weird.
Yeah, they list them all. They're like, you can use it for anything.
Wow. Okay.
And they have this crazy branding. It's covered in words. It's really unique and interesting. And our dad has a background in consumer products as well, and has really kind of a personal obsession and passion for brand building. And so we had those experiences talking about the harmful messages in the personal care and beauty industry that Sadie and I would talk about. And then we had this experience where we were really talking about personal care branding. And then throughout the backpacking trip, we hiked miles and miles and miles and probably talked about this idea of creating SadieB the entire time.
Wow.
And I can picture the specific part of the trail when we came up with our first line of product, which was the Adventurer, which is part of our current lineup. We were on the trail thinking about products. What if there was a product for girls like us that loved backpacking and camping and trail running and hiking, and that would be amazing. And so we came up with the Adventurer line.
And we were sketching bottles on the way home. We were
so excited about it.
Yeah.
And of course, as soon as we had this idea spark, our dad, who is a serial entrepreneur, was just okay, keep thinking about it. Keep fleshing out the idea. And so we did. And then there was one more experience that we had that kind of pushed us over the edge of hey, we need to do this. And it was super random. My dad was out of shampoo, and so I went to the grocery store with him. And he was just looking at all the big brands and every, what you usually see. And he picked up 2 bottles of shampoo and turned to me and was like, okay, do I want touchable softness or lasting shine? And it made me laugh. And mom and daughter burst out laughing next to us. And we got a good laugh out of it. And as we walked away from that, we realized, it was hilarious to have those claims aimed at a dad. Like, he's not worried about being touchable and shiny.
So this was shampoo that was targeted towards men specifically?
It wasn't targeted towards men.
Okay, because I was going to say,
it's just the big
that's
brands.
the tagline that's going to get you, right?
But that's all that was available at the shelf.
That's so funny.
And it's hilarious thinking about a dad being touchable and shiny. Like, that's his last priority, right? Yeah. But then realizing that those claims are being aimed at girls my age. Mm-hmm. And that's what we're expected to be, when in reality what we're focused on is our personal development. Mm-hmm. And we need messages, especially today in this world, messages that support our mental health.
Mm-hmm. So that's really cool. Okay, so you're there. He's like, do I want this or this, right? And you guys are laughing about it. Yeah. So that was after the backpacking trip. Yeah. And it was kind of part of this evolution, like, hey, we have to do this, right? Mm-hmm. So maybe educate me a little bit about the marketplace. My limited exposure to this type of stuff is it feels like there's products that are geared towards women, right? And it's all like the supermodels and like that. But it's like, it's mostly like, I would say older women, but like not girls, like hardly ever teenagers, it seems like, or teenagers that are dolled up to look like supermodels, or babies, right? Like, hey, this is safe for your baby or your infants or whatever. And it feels like, I don't know if I've ever actually seen any messaging targeted towards like teenagers or adolescents or young girls or whatever. So did you feel like there was this huge gap in the market? I don't even know what the competitive landscape looked like when you were thinking about this.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there are definitely brands that are a little bit more geared towards girls, but we really saw white space for a product line that is specifically for girls. We say Gen Z usually. Mm-hmm. That's specifically for Gen Z girls, and that has this positive messaging and messaging that is really based around girls' interests and activities and accomplishments. And it's interesting. So we, just a few weeks ago, launched our shampoos and conditioners into 500 Targets. And
I saw that announcement. Congratulations. That's amazing.
Thank you.
Was it like stressful too?
Oh, yeah, of course.
Okay, we'll get to that part of the story.
Very. But in the meeting with the Target hair care buyer that we had when we pitched a year ago, or I guess it was the meeting where he told us that we'd be getting into Target.
This was a he.
He, yes.
Not a she.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So it's so weird. I've seen your messaging around like, it's almost always men in these kind of decision making. Like, it's weird, right? Like, it's weird. Okay.
And we're very encouraged that they, see this need and this white space in the marketplace that we saw. And something that the buyer said to us, his name's Kyle, he said, you guys will be it's something along the lines of like, you guys will be the only brand on shelf that's marketed specifically to Gen Z girls.
Wow.
Like, that's really just solely targeting that demographic and none other.
So are we giving Kyle a shout out right now that he would saw the vision and that he at least kind of bought into the mission and everything?
Definitely. Okay. Kyle Mead deserves a big shout out.
Okay, shout out.
Because he caught our vision. He caught the vision of the impact we're trying to make and just the difference in the industry that we're trying to make. And we could not be more grateful and like excited about his support. So
that's cool. Okay, so we got to step back because we jump forward a little bit. It's like, this is an idea. There's sketches. There's like thoughts. Yeah. How do you go from great ideas to like, what was the first steps you guys started to take to like try and make this thing real?
Yeah. So there was a specific moment where we had these conversations, had started really developing this idea, and we were sitting at our kitchen counter, and our dad looked at both of us and was like, so do you want to do this? And we were like, yeah, sure. And we're like, yeah, we want to do this.
That was the moment.
We want to make a difference in the industry, and we had no idea what was ahead, of course. I don't think we would have done it, but we did. But
I think being naive has worked in our favor.
For sure.
Yeah.
But that was the moment we decided we wanted to do it. And from there, we just started leveraging all of the connections that we had and talking to people, asking questions. The first connection and ask that we made was to our neighbor 3 doors up. He owned a branding agency, and we said, hey, can we come pitch to you? We have an idea.
Yeah. It's local. It's called Enlisted Design. Bo Euler is the...
Oh, you guys are neighbors with Bo?
We're neighbors with
Bo.
Bo.
He's kind of a rock star too, right?
I know. 100% a rock star.
All right. Yeah, man, that's lucky proximity, right?
Yeah,
okay.
So he was nice enough to be like, yeah, come in and pitch to my team. We'd love to hear your idea.
Very cool.
And they also caught the vision and were just like, this could be an incredible brand. And with their expertise in industrial design and everything that they can build, they wanted in on this project. And,
nice.
so we were super happy and stoked to be working with them because they're just such brilliant creatives. And
okay, they love the idea, but like you guys don't have like a pile of money, right? So how did you start having those conversations? Like they're like, okay, we're in. Then it starts. Then the business conversations start, right? It's like, okay, we want some equity.
Yeah.
Did rev share? Like, how did you guys approach that?
Totally.
And I'm guessing your dad like helped navigate some of that.
He is an incredible mentor to us, and we've even built a board along the way of other incredible mentors, and so we have a lot of support behind us as we've gone through all these things. But yeah, we really leveraged equity, got the business set up and everything, and then we started leveraging equity and then raising from family and friends to be able to support the start of it.
So Enlisted Design loves it. They're like, okay, we're going to do this thing. You start having some of these business conversations. How did you know when you started doing early market research that people were telling you the truth? Because you guys are so kind and so friendly that it feels like people would say what you wanted to hear to be kind to you, to support you. But like when you're doing market research, the hard part sometimes is to get to the real truth, that they're not just saying stuff to make you feel good or not saying stuff to be like, oh yeah, I love your idea. But like the real question is, but would you buy it instead of any of these other products? How did you start figuring that out?
I think honestly, our board and kind of our closest circle, including our dad, who's in consumer products, and Davis Smith, and who's, so focused on a social impact brand in Cotopaxi, and then Mackenzie Bauer, having this really close circle of validation, and then eventually the Girl Up United Nations executive directors that we met with. There was this close circle that really validated our idea, and was kind of amazing to see the trust that they had in us, because we were expressing that this was a need that we had personally. And so I think it definitely came from very credible people that were close enough to us that they would tell us if this wouldn't work. And also, they were willing to tell us, maybe pivot a little bit here, and it might work better. And so we definitely took that feedback along the way.
So can you give me some examples of like, where were some things that they said, maybe you should pivot, or maybe you should change this thing? Like what were some of the things they wanted you to change?
Yeah. I mean, going back to the name conversation, when we originally took our idea to Bo, we were calling it For Girls by Girls, which for a number of reasons probably wouldn't have been the best way to go.
What's that, FGBG or whatever,
FGBG,
right?
it's long. It's
I don't know. There's this brand called FUBU that you guys are probably familiar with, right? So I was thinking, if you're following the FUBU pattern, the FGBG.
Yeah.
But they're like, okay, maybe not that.
Yeah. And so that was a conversation we had with Bo and his team, was about brand name, and it was wrapped up in a conversation about logo. And we went through a bunch of different options, came up with different ideas, and landed on SadieB. And that was, first of all, a really good moment, realizing that they are really, they were truly invested in our success. And that was evident by just, first of all, willing to take equity as a portion of payment.
Yeah,
which
it's a big vote of confidence. Yeah.
A great vote of confidence. And then being really open and honest with us about where they thought we needed to pivot. So that was really encouraging.
So the name was kind of the first big thing. Well, then when you started exploring other alternatives, why did it end up being SadieB?
Yeah. So Bo and his team brainstormed a lot. They came back to us with a bunch of different logos and name options. And we really fell in love with SadieB, I think because, one, I was really focused and leading the product development. And so it kind of felt like
I was going to say, did you guys do rock, paper, scissors for, is it Abby B or SadieB?
And then we loved the logo that they presented to us, and we felt like, and how they pitched it to us was like, this is a name and a logo that can be long-lasting. Whereas For Girls By Girls is too long. It's going to be used in a lot of other places. Where SadieB, you can really personify. And what people are looking for right now is people that are selling them things, people that are making them quality product, not big brands, not big corporations.
They want to connect with the brand on a personal level.
Exactly. And that name would give us the opportunity to do that and really bring it back to our roots, which we always say we're powered by girls. And that our name and logo just brings us right back.
Okay. I paused right there because I'm going to ask you a question that if you want to cut this out, we can cut this out. But if we can leave it in, this might be great. So my question is, when it came down to like SadieB, and I mean, for you maybe personally, like, was it a little bit hard to think, okay, I love my little sister, she's amazing, but she's going to be the celebrity, right? Like, it's her name that's going to be attached to this thing. Was that hard for you, or what was that like?
I don't know if I just didn't think it through or what, but I was totally cool. I don't think the thought of it being Abby B even crossed my mind. Like, I don't think. And I think Sadie and I do have a really good balance where we like to be in different positions. Like, I feel more comfortable, I would say, being a little bit behind the scenes.
Okay.
And like, if you told me like, oh, if it's your name, like, you'll be the face of the brand, you'll be the celebrity, I'd be like, no thanks. Like, I don't like that. But Sadie handles it very well.
She handles the limelight well.
Yeah, she really does. So yeah, I honestly didn't cross my mind.
It's so funny. People always ask this question, want to like get a story out of us, and we're like, we look at each other and laugh because we're like, we didn't even think about it.
I'm like racking my brain. I'm like, I don't know.
Was there a moment where we were like, wait, would it be weird if it was named after me? And like, is Abby getting the credit? That didn't even cross our minds.
And I forgot.
It just felt right. Like, we were like, yeah, that's it.
That's cool.
We went forward with it, and we love it. I mean, I love it now because we're getting so many messages from everyone named SadieB, and they're like, oh my gosh, this has my name on it. This is the best thing ever. And so now I've got like this little
all the SadieBs out there. You got the SadieB posse that's like all out there.
It's kind of fun. But yeah, I think it really just personifies the brand and makes it something that girls can connect with, which was really our goal. Yeah.
That's very cool, very mature. And it sounds like, I mean, picking up on this vibe, so tell me if I'm wrong, but like, it sounds like you guys have always had like very close relationship, and it's the fact that it didn't cross your mind and that it wasn't like a big deal, that says a lot. I think that's very cool. So how old were you when you guys started having like the conversations with Enlisted and stuff? Were you still in high school?
I was 16. I was a junior in high school.
And did you guys actually launch your product while you were still in high school?
So no, we started the whole process October 2019, which you can imagine right before the pandemic, and kind of slowed down afterwards. So we took a lot of time during the pandemic when everything was closed down to really develop our idea. And we were working on product development simultaneously as we were working on everything with Enlisted, and then found a bottle manufacturer. And so it was kind of a slow moving process through the pandemic, but then we ended up launching May of 2022 when I was a freshman in college.
Okay. So, I mean, still, it's amazingly young for both of you. It's such a cool, like, thing that you're, like, taking this idea and actually starting to bring it to life. Amazing that you had these opportunities to get people involved, someone who's as talented as Bo, and, you know, getting people believing in it and saying, yeah, we want to be a part of this. That's amazing. So it makes sense that you guys kind of took a little bit of time through COVID. Then at what point did you start feeling like, okay, let's do this? And what was, like, when you start thinking about, for people out there who, like, oh, I have this idea for a product, like, how do you even start thinking about what's a minimum run look like? Is it 50,000 bottles? Is it 10,000 bottles? And then how do you start thinking, like, how do we bite off that big chunk, right? Did you do a Kickstarter at the very beginning, or how did you launch it?
We didn't. We raised money from family and friends, and were able to do the minimum run with that, and then leveraging equity as well. So,
So the manufacturer also take equity?
No,
Okay.
not the manufacturer, just board members and family and friends.
Okay.
Yeah.
So family and friends money got you enough to, like, do the minimum run production. And what was that for you guys, the very first one?
So we launched with 16 products, and the minimum run was 5,000 per product. So
Per product?
Yeah,
oh, wow.
Produced 80,000 units.
Oh, my God. So this is not like, hey, let's just try one and see how it works. You guys were going gangbusters.
Family, this is like people were committed to us, and if we were going to press print on those bottles and fill, then we were going to put everything we had into it.
Okay, so talk to me through the strategy of, like, why 16 instead of just, like, one?
Yeah, so it really started with the hair care side of things, because that was my biggest interest. And as we developed the brand and the messaging, we very intentionally call ourselves a personal care brand rather than a beauty brand. So we are SadieB Personal Care. And it started as general empowerment of girls. And then as Abby and I had our own personal experiences with mental health struggles and saw our friends around us having experiences with that, and then it becoming a nationwide crisis for young people. We wanted that to be our focus, was to support girls' mental health. So we wanted to very intentionally be a personal care brand. So that's why we expanded our product line then into body wash and body spray, to really be in that category. That's not
like to come out strong in that category, and to feel like you're going to launch your brand with a lot of options for people so they can kind of fully embrace it instead of just, like, having one.
Totally.
It's risky though, right? Did anybody be like, are you sure you want to do, like, 16 products right out of the gate?
It's so funny. Our dad totally pushed us to. I mean, I think he, as a serial entrepreneur, is like, that's something that you have to be, is willing to take risks.
Yeah.
And so we felt like that was a risk that we wanted to take. And with all of the validation we had received from girls and board members and just successful entrepreneurs, we felt like that was what we wanted to do.
Okay. How many conversations had you had with your target audience, like with girls, before you, like, launched this huge thing?
Well, obviously Sadie and I were and still are in a unique position where we are our own target demographic. But we did have to be very, like, conscious that we were making a brand for all girls, not just, our personal dream brand. We wanted to create a brand that all girls could connect with. And that's another reason we came out of the bat with 4 lines of product. And those 4 lines of product are go-getter, adventurer, creator, and athlete. And so they're these kind of power-ups. They're these, they're broad enough that, you can connect to any or all of them. And then there's specific functionalities with the products that kind of align. Like, for example, the athlete line is extra clarifying, and Sadie can speak to it better than I can, since she led the product development. But that is a huge reason that we wanted to come out with 4 lines right off the bat. And Sadie and I also did a handful of surveys, but we also had a lot of conversations with friends. And we actually have our advisory board, and we have a girl advisory board. And it's a dozen girls that we meet with, and they will give us feedback on like product development and on marketing and on a bunch of different things. Like we really always want to keep girls' voices at the center of the brand and what we're doing.
That's cool. So you launched with these 4 kind of different positive personality types, but the products themselves actually have uniqueness to them. So talk to me about that.
Yeah, so Abby started to introduce, so the athletes are most clarifying with apple cider vinegar and charcoal for girls that are sweating and practicing all day.
What do you mean? What does clarifying mean in the beauty world?
Yeah, it just means it's getting all of the buildup off of your hair of sweat and dust and oils and maybe product buildup. It's just a little bit more deeply cleaning to get all of that out of your hair. For
especially girls who are outside a lot, like running around in the grass and like soccer and lacrosse and all the things, right? Okay.
Yeah, but then it also has vitamin E in it that helps protect the hair in the sun and chlorine. So for swimmers. For girls that are spending a lot of time outside practicing all those things. And then the Go-Getter is our all hair types everyday formula with coconut and castor oil to lightly hydrate the hair without weighing it down, so it can be styled or air dried. The Adventurer is our most hydrating formula with sunflower seed oil and castor oil, really repairing and strengthening with those ingredients. And then it also has that vitamin E to protect the hair in the sun. And then our last line is the Creator, and that is chock full.
Looks good on the gram.
Totally. It's chock full of amino acids and antioxidants to keep the hair healthy when you're heat styling it and coloring it more often.
Okay.
And so those are the specific functionalities, but then all across the board, as we were developing these products, it felt like a given to us that they needed to have clean ingredients. They needed to be salon quality because that's what I was using and loved, and so that's how we formulated them. So along with that, all color safe, and then having recyclable and packaging made of recycled material. So all of our bottles are made from 85 to 100% recycled material.
Nice. That's really cool. Again, this is like a noob speaking, fashion and personal care noob. What does salon quality mean? And what's the distinction between something that is salon quality and something that's not?
Yeah, so salon quality products are usually a lot more concentrated. They just have more potent ingredients that are really nourishing and taking care of the hair. You can really see a difference in the hair when you're using salon quality products. So that's how we formulated ours, to have these strong ingredients that really kind of follow through on these benefits that we're promising. Whereas a lot of the time, drugstore lower end products will say they have these ingredients, but they're in such tiny quantities in the product that they don't really make a difference in your hair health or whatever.
So there's this phrase, no money, no mission, right? And in this context, it means you've got to do all of these really cool things to accomplish your mission, but you've got to be profitable in doing it, or you won't be able to grow and sustain this. So when you're thinking about the cool things that you wanted to do to provide these really high quality products, salon quality products, how did you start thinking about, how do we make this affordable for like every teenage girl or every girl out there? The wealthier women who can afford to go to salons can pay like hundreds of dollars for a hairstyle or whatever. What about the 14-year-old girl that doesn't have a ton of money, doesn't come from a wealthy family? How did you think about that?
Yeah, we definitely were very conscious. We wanted our product to be accessible to girls and be, at a price point that's accessible. And so it's really a question of margins. And oftentimes those kind of bigger salon brands will have just a much higher margin. But for us, it was, really important to provide that quality product to girls at a price point that is reasonable.
Yeah.
And we also kind of, even at the beginning of building SadieB, we imagined ourselves in places like Target. That's where we wanted to be. And so we also priced in a place where we could, fit on the shelf there.
That was going to be my next question is like, okay, margins, if you're giving up a little in margin to make it affordable, but then you go to a Target and they want a piece of that margin too. Like, how did you, without a business degree and a finance degree, who was helping you? Who was supporting you? How did you think through that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I did. So my first couple of years in college, I did take an accounting class and a finance class. So
this was real. You were like, you were super paying attention. Everyone else is falling asleep in class. Yeah. You're like, oh my gosh, this is really important because I got to figure out our balance sheet.
Yeah, truly. Almost a little too real at times. I was like, this is stressful. But we, and it's interesting because our product is heavy to ship. Like, that plays a role in our margins when we are shipping it direct to consumer. And so when we are shipping wholesale, actually, there's, for what we're not paying in shipping, it kind of is a good balance or a good switch off. And so we realized that retail really would be a sustainable path.
It was almost a sixes for you that like Target's going to take a margin, but then we're not shipping it directly. Yeah. Or if Target doesn't take their margin, then we're paying that extra for the shipping, and it was about the same.
Yeah, exactly. And so we just, we manage it on spreadsheets and QuickBooks and just, crunch the numbers best we can. So,
okay. So you got some friends and family money. You did this massive 80,000 unit like initial thing. And were you guys kind of sick to your stomachs about like, okay, we just ordered 80,000 units. How are we going to sell 80,000? Because without a Kickstarter, you didn't have like promised buyers yet. Yeah. What was your strategy? Like, okay, how are we going to sell all this stuff?
Yeah, so we launched direct to consumer just on our website and started very slowly gaining social media following. We honestly, our dream was always to get into retail and be in a place like Target, and that opportunity came a lot more quickly than we expected. And so,
were you reaching out to them, or was it through like Enlisted? Like, what was the connection there, and like, how did that happen?
Yeah, so we went to a female founder event that Mackenzie Bauer hosted. She's just like a champion of women.
Yep. And founder of Threads, for those of you. I mean, all of us around here know that, but for my far-reaching audience.
Yes. Yeah, so she was hosting a female founder event where Cherie Hager was speaking, who's the founder of Salt. And she has built this incredible B Corp company, a sustainable period care. And so we just love the brand and how they structured their social impact. And, so we went up to speak to her after. She has 5 daughters. And so we were like, oh, we would love to send you and your daughter's product to try and get your feedback. And, this is our mission. And we just wanted to share it with you. And she's like, that's great. I'll send you my address. We connected with her. And about a week later, she sent a photo of her daughters holding the product, all smiling.
Nice.
And just said, this has to be in Target. Have you met my Target broker? And we were like, no, we haven't. So thank you for the introduction.
And that was Kyle?
That was, his name's John Hoffer. So Kyle's the buyer. And then the broker is like the middle man who helps you manage the relationship. And so John emails back and says, hair care reset for 2024 is in 1 week. So you've got to get a pitch deck together really quick, and I'll send it to the buyer and see if he'll take a meeting with us. But they're cutting SKU counts by 20% this year.
Wow.
So they probably won't take meetings with any new brands. So for Target, they reset hair care once a year. So this was like our opportunity until 2025 rolled around. Or I guess pitching for 2025 rolled around. So we put together a pitch deck as quickly as we could, and the buyer took a meeting with us, which was kind of the first miracle. And then
Where was the meeting? Was it in person?
It was Zoom. Okay. Yeah. And then After that, that was in April of 23, and so it was kind of radio silence. After we pitched, we felt like it went really well, and he was like super friendly. The broker was like, that was weird. Like that's the most friendly I've ever seen him before.
Okay.
And so anyway, it started.
But then there's a little extended period of
right.
like, what is going on?
You're just waiting like until they say no. It's like a maybe, and so you're just like waiting for little bits and pieces of information.
Was that kind of nerve-wracking?
Yes,
yeah.
Totally. Yeah. And then in July, a 15-minute meeting with the buyer popped up on our calendar, and we were like, only 15 minutes? Like, this is just enough time for him to tell us no.
Mm.
And we hop on the call, and with no introductions or anything, he just goes, "You're getting into Target." And like, totally.
Did you guys lose your minds?
Totally.
Because you're kind of going in thinking like, he's for sure going to say no. Like, you don't book a 15-minute conversation to like.
He was probably going to let's go like nicely and be like, maybe try again next year.
Yeah. And we just got like hands over our mouths.
That
just
is awesome.
Oh my goodness.
Was somebody video recording? I mean, did you record that actual Zoom thing? Like, I want that clip.
I know. I wish I could replay that moment just over and over again. But we took a video of our reaction just right after that.
Processing.
As we were processing what just happened. And
that's cool.
It was one of the best moments.
Were your parents there? Like, was anybody around?
They actually were all out of town.
No
and we were the only ones
You're all
home.
by yourselves?
Yeah, we had actually come home early from a family vacation to work. And so everyone was out of town, so we FaceTimed them.
Okay. Yeah. That's so exciting. Okay, so you're getting into the Target, and then what does that mean?
It means that it's just the beginning for SadieB. I mean, this.
But you guys already had 80,000, and you'd been selling some, right? So how much did you still have?
Enough to stock Target shelves.
Okay, so I was going to ask, like, you could use that to like give them their first like inventory.
The first kind of big
which was
order.
amazing because like it's a big ask for a small company to start stocking Target shelves.
Yeah, because the flip side of that is exciting, but then if you didn't have the product, then it's like, oh, how are we going to get enough product to like show up? And they've got minimum quantities and stuff, right?
Yeah. And we did have to order more product to be able to fill the orders.
Okay.
Yeah. And, we looked into potentially, doing a round at a VC and raising some money through investors. And ultimately, we got connected through our banker to a financial institution that does AR financing. Mm-hmm. And that was super attractive for us. That seemed like the best kind of solution for this point in our business. And so that's how we've funded that inventory for Target is through AR financing.
Yeah, revenue's coming in and they see that there's like consistent orders and they're willing to like float you. I don't know if they call it a line of credit or how did they treat it?
Essentially.
Okay.
Line of credit, yeah.
So it's in Target, and were you still selling online?
Yeah.
Did the one boost the other?
Yeah, definitely. Our online sales have definitely boosted since we've launched into Target, which is great. Because that's just another channel that we have bringing in some revenue, and then we've got Target up and running and trying to grow that channel, and just lots of growth from there. So
that's so cool. Okay, so now we're kind of at present day, right? You're selling online, you're selling Target. Have you guys leveraged influencers, or like how have you thought about that kind of like sales channel?
Yeah. So it's interesting. We had really just been growing organically. We hadn't done any paid marketing up until a month ago.
Wow. Okay. Super recent. Okay.
Yeah. So it's funny you asked like our launch marketing strategy, and I'm like, well,
still figuring it out.
We didn't really have, when we initially launched just our website, we weren't doing any paid marketing.
Yeah.
So it was really just organic growth. But then, of course, for the Target launch, we started to launch a national PR campaign. Mm-hmm. We felt like we could really leverage our story of being girl-founded and mission-driven. And then we also have started leveraging influencers a little bit. We have a brand ambassador. Her name is Olivia Moultrie, and she's the youngest soccer player in to go pro history.
Wow.
She's incredible.
Okay.
So she's a brand ambassador for us, and then just really leveraging our own social channels, sharing our story and about the product and the launch. And yeah.
Okay. We're going to come back, and at the end, we'll talk about like, where do you go from here? But let's go back to like so far along this journey, which it's funny because it seems like a lot's happened, but it hasn't really been that much time, right? We've covered a lot about the brand part of the brand Sweat and Tears, you know, this kind of theme.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the sweat. Like, let's talk about the reality of how hard was it for the two of you to make all of this happen while like going to school and I'm assuming like dating and other, you know, like having lives.
Yep.
How have you balanced all of that?
One of my favorite things, because I felt like I had wondered the same thing, like how am I going to balance all of this? And one of my favorite things that I had heard actually Davis Smith say was, you know, it's not really, it's a balance in the end, but you know, some days I am totally focused on finals. And then some days I'm totally focused on target sales. Yeah. And then focused on the social media. So, and then, you know, I'm on a family vacation for a few days. And like, that's my focus. And, you know, over a couple months, that balances out. But it's not a daily balance. Yeah. It's definitely an overtime balance, making sure that I'm giving time throughout the week or the month to each of these things. But yeah, that's kind of how the best way that I've found balance in all of this.
Yeah, my first reaction was to say, I don't think I would use the word balance. I don't think there's a lot of balance happening for me.
Because you're all work. Now, is that how it feels?
At this point in my life, I'm very focused on work and taking, I have a few more classes to graduate college, so I'm just taking kind of one at a time. So I'm very focused on work. Something that's really important to me and obviously aligns with our brand message is to prioritize my like personal health and mental health. And if I can always like let that, you know, come first or like be prioritized, then I have like, I feel like I can have the emotional bandwidth to, you know, these other responsibilities. And so,
So what do you do personally to like unplug? Like, what is your mental reset?
For me, the number one, like I call it mental hygiene, thing that I do is running. I love to run. I actually grew up a swimmer and did competitive swimming, but I transitioned to running in college, and that's my outlet. I love to run.
Do you do it competitively, or you just like go for a fun jog?
Yeah, I go. Okay.
I would say she does more than a fun jog, but
I mean, for her, a fun jog is a marathon or something. Or
close,
I do like to do a race here and there, but but for the most part.
So when you run, you can just kind of mentally sort of like unplug and just be out there. Do you, I'm assuming you mostly run outside. Like, what do you do during the winter? Like just...
During the winter, I
is it on a treadmill or like what do you do?
Treadmill. Sometimes I still manage to get outside. Okay. Sadie and I both actually love trail running, and if you can get the right like called micro spikes, so you get the right equipment, you can do some running in the snow.
Yeah.
So I do tend to find myself on the treadmill more often in the winter.
Yeah. Okay. What about you? What do you do to unplug?
I definitely love running as well. I think for me, honestly, this is going to sound like I'm trying to plug our brand, but truly it is like taking a shower with the SadieB body wash is like one of my favorite ways just to like wash off the day recently. I've been using the vanilla mint, which is our athlete fragrance, at the end of every day to just like reset and like get ready for bed. And it is so calming vanilla and one of my favorite ways to to kind of mentally reset. I also find like journaling and keeping a planner for me helps everything that's spinning in my head like not be as overwhelming.
Don't tell my wife this, but I stole some of her eucalyptus body wash because the smell was like, felt like I was in a sauna or something. Oh, yeah. This is amazing.
Totally.
So don't tell, because I'm not supposed to touch all the nice products. I'm supposed to stay in my lane, but that's funny. Okay. So you guys are working hard, trying to have this overtime balance. I love the way that you described that. And I think I have actually heard Davis Smith kind of talk about that. But it's cool to think of it like that. And then how did you go from, it's kind of the two of you and maybe your dad with some advice and all that stuff. Like, how did you start thinking about surrounding yourself with the right kind of people to help you like really build this and grow this? What was that plan?
Yeah. So our team right now is Sadie and I, and then her name is Tracy Rathall, and she's we've just brought her on at the beginning of this year as kind of a part-time VP of marketing. She really is helping us execute marketing for this Target launch and has been incredible. So that just having one more person kind of be on our team and talk things through with has been amazing.
Do you guys have like warehouse space or office space or?
We meet in our parents' living room is where we work.
Nice. This is still 3 men in a garage. Three women in a garage.
Exactly.
I love this.
We stole our little sister's desk from her room actually to pull down there, and I think she's still.
That's hilarious.
Once in a while she'll ask us for it back.
That's awesome.
We don't have another place to go yet.
Mackenzie's going to kill me for saying 3 men in a garage. I meant that metaphorically. Mackenzie, back off. It's 3 women in a garage. I mean, in a nice living room. It's not really like a garage. Right? Okay, so you're meeting, you got so are you doing, Abby, you're doing all the business stuff, like all the finance and everything?
Yeah, pretty much.
And Sadie's doing all the product development and kind of
social media and helping with the marketing, and then Abby does focuses on the social impact, finance and accounting.
Okay.
And logistics, which has been a huge feat. Supply chain entering its target.
Is a lot.
Yeah. So
your professors are asking you, not like, you're like, hey, how does this work in the real world? And you're like telling them, like, let me explain how this works in the real world.
But seriously, you usually ask me why I'm so behind and why my assignments aren't in.
The one thing, I know we joke about it, but like the one thing that seems cool to me, and correct me if this is a wrong assumption, but it seems cool that like if you are in school, but you're applying what you're using to like a real world like thing that's happening, like it's so much more valuable and you're so much, you care, right?
Yes.
As opposed to like sitting in class and being like, oh man, am I ever going to use this? Like, when am I ever going to use this? You're like, oh my gosh, you're like in the middle of it, right?
Totally. It's a completely different learning experience and really kind of fulfilling to be able to like put it into practice right away.
Yeah.
So
do they in the class say, okay, Abby, will you present on this topic and tell us like how this is working for you, like in your business right now?
It hasn't happened yet. I've finished most of I did business minor, so finished most of those. Okay. And I'm an econ major. So we're mostly in economic models and,
Are you talking
math,
about inflation or are you talking about like?
Yeah, different things. I have just a few elective credits left.
Because inflation and interest rates and all that fun stuff is like impacting your business, right?
Totally,
you got to understand how that all impacts you, right?
Yeah.
Are you selling overseas? I'm assuming if you're online, can you sell anywhere or do like people have to be in the US? What's that?
We're just starting selling within the United States. There's a lot of extra testing and then different kind of label requirements that you have to study and then apply.
Different countries have different rules.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah, and how you present things on the label is different in a lot of countries from country to country. And so you'd have to make a lot of different types of bottles for each. So anyway, we've just started in the U.S.
Okay, but if somebody sees you on social or online and they come, it's like how do you filter to make sure they're just, I guess you've got messaging that says, hey, this is U.S. only, or maybe at the checkout, like, sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so we've gotten, I think, 2 or 3 messages recently that are like, do you sell this in the UK? Do you sell this in Mexico? Do you sell? And
you're like, soon.
And yes, and that's our response. Like, yes, we'll be selling it there soon. That's the goal.
So as you approach that, how are you thinking about international strategy? And is that something that a company like Enlisted and Pattern, like they help with that? Or do you have to get like specialists that are kind of like international?
The greatest resource that we know of within Utah is the World Trade Center.
Okay.
And, essentially their purpose is big focus for them is helping Utah businesses expand internationally. And so that's actually something we had a couple of conversations about. Obviously, there's Canada is close, and there's a lot of personal care brands who that's their first step internationally from the US.
Yeah, it's kind of an easy first move.
Yeah, to Canada. There are still obviously, like Sadie said, some different label requirements and as far as like different distribution channels we need to go through. But that is definitely something that's on our radar. Yeah.
Okay. You are building a brand around a purpose with a sustainable kind of like a cool mission behind it. How do you start connecting on an individual basis with your customers? Because, probably at first it's like you can email them personally, you can message them personally, but as the scales to like thousands and thousands, how do you continue to keep this like this close-knit community that you're trying to build?
Yeah, I think we're definitely still trying to figure that out. But one step that we've taken is what we call the combination of personal care products and mental hygiene. So taking care of your body and your mind. We call it girl care. And it's really about celebrating the whole girl. And, the way we feel like we can create community, we can really leverage our product lines that we initially came up with and representing all different types of girls in our social media and on our website and any other advertising or branding that we do so that girls can see themselves in our brand. And then just having this message of girl care, of celebrating who you are and what you're capable of rather than focusing on what you need to look like. And so we feel like just that in our branding is going to start creating community as we scale. And then I think there's a lot of really creative ideas we could come up with around creating community because Gen Z is so authentic and eager to connect and all on social media. So I think there's a lot of powerful things we can do for sure.
That's cool. Okay. We're to the tears part. Are you ready?
We're ready to bring it on.
What's been the hardest part of doing this so far?
I think the moments when I feel incapable of taking the next step, that's been the hardest moment. It always starts when I let my mental hygiene routine slip. Which is why we feel like it's so transformative and so powerful. And we're sharing that message through our brand. But I think as being such a young girl, it's so funny. Literally just the other day, I was like, it hit me that I was like, wow, I actually came up with this idea for these products. I actually came up with that. And I had never given myself any credit at all for anything that we had done. Like, I'm just over
you
here. You
almost took it for granted that you had come up with all these really cool things.
And I was like, in a completely not like, I just hadn't even like registered that I was responsible for that. Like, anyway, I feel like as such a young girl, I feel so kind of like behind and like not capable of all the things that these entrepreneurs are doing, and definitely some imposter syndrome. So I'm just trying always to like soak up all the wisdom and knowledge around me that's like fire hose. But I finally like got to a point where I was like, oh my goodness, like this is why people keep congratulating us because we actually came up with this. Like, this is crazy. And that was truly, like, this thought literally crossed my mind 2 days ago. And that was the first time, 4 years into this, where I was like, wow, like, we did this. That's so, yeah, I don't know. I think there's definitely been lows, not necessarily of, like, the business is going to fail, but where I feel like I'm not capable of doing it. So... yeah. I mentioned earlier that I think
being naive in a lot of ways has worked in our favor. And I definitely think that it has. Part of the reason Sadie and I have, taken a lot of leaps and risks is that we just don't necessarily have the full picture of what could go wrong.
It's true.
Yeah. I mean, there's something to that, right? It's like,
yeah.
Start something. Okay, for all you girls out there who are thinking about, start something before you know better.
I would give that advice.
Yeah.
I would give that advice.
Yeah.
But I think on the flip side, there is like whenever something does go wrong, I think by default, I'm like, oh, that's our fault. By default, it's like we didn't know what we were doing. Even if it could have been something that anyone starting a business could have run into, it's kind of the default is like, oh, this is clearly our fault. We don't know what we're doing. And it not slipping into that kind of narrative of we're too young and we don't know what to do. We don't know how to run a business, blah, blah, blah. I think that is like a slippery slope that I've sometimes gone down a bit. But as Sadie was saying, I think for us, like, just believing in ourselves is big, and that's so cliche. But it's interesting. We were talking to our brand ambassador, Olivia Moultrie, who obviously is hugely successful. She was just on the U.S. women's national team, and they won the Gold Cup. And she's only 18 now. Yeah. And she said something that her mantra is fall in love with the process of becoming great. And she talked about thinking about like the roadblocks you hit or the challenges you face as opportunities and just the natural course of anyone who's trying to do something great or trying to do something different that no one's done before. And that was super inspiring to me, and something I've been thinking a lot about lately is that the roadblocks we face are not the end of our road, but they're just kind of the natural trajectory of what we're doing because it's something that's difficult.
Fall in love with the process of becoming great. That's super deep. And if she came up with that, like, mad props. If it's like somebody from like 100 years ago, we should figure out like, but it's so cool because I think the people who make the world a better place, make cool things, like do amazing stuff, have figured that out, have figured out how to fall in love with the process of becoming great, because that process has a lot of obstacles and pain and suffering and sacrifice and a lot of things that you have to go through. And in being able to embrace that and fall in love with that, and not just the high points, not just the Zoom calls where you're like, you're in Target, you're like, totally lose your mind. But like the hard things about, okay, loving that process and kind of understanding how that all fits together makes it so you can make it through a lot of those hard things, right? If you were just focused on, we want to be like these famous brand creators and whatever, and you were naive about like that, I think the first sign of trouble, you'd be like, okay, we're out. Like this is lame, right?
Totally.
But you're so passionate about your mission and her, like, using that kind of inspiration, like falling in love with the process of becoming great. I think that's cool. That's going to be the tagline for this episode, right?
Awesome. It's interesting. I think now that we have hit so many roadblocks and overcome them, I love that line from Olivia because it's like, well, what's one more? Like, we've gotten this far and we've solved so many problems and overcome a lot of obstacles. Like, what's one more? Like, if we can just get past one more, like, it just keeps getting better and better. So, I think that philosophy is super helpful.
It is. Well, I think this is not just inspirational to young girls. It's inspirational to old dudes like me with gray hair. Because I can feel the passion, I can feel the energy, the excitement, the twinkle in your eyes. Like, you guys literally have like twinkles in your eyes. Just this exciting, you're at the beginning of what I think is going to be this massively cool adventure. and you're learning in real time and figuring this out. And it sounds like you have a really great support group, people who believe in you. And I should mention, like, one thing that's really cool that I'm seeing happening here in the state of Utah and maybe even more broadly elsewhere, but especially in the state of Utah, is now you've got an ecosystem starting to develop of female founders who've been there and are eager and willing and so cool about mentoring, like Mackenzie and like, Susan Perkins and like all these like other mentors who've created stuff and are building stuff and have gone before that are willing to kind of like turn around and like give you a leg up and arm up and then you can do that for others, right? And it's building a really cool positive ecosystem, I think, and I think that's super cool.
It's incredible to be a part of. I definitely think our story is one that shows how powerful it is to uplift other women. And that's really what our story is the result of, which is amazing.
Yeah.
We have definitely been the beneficiaries of the work that people like Mackenzie have done. We see them as like pioneers, like in so many ways. They have made a path for us. And I think it's a huge reason why we were able to, get as far as we have at a young age and as young girls. So you
go to this event. You meet Salt founder. What's her name again? We should give her Cherie. We give her a shout out, and then she introduces you to her buyer. And Target, like boom, boom, boom. These cool, really cascading opportunities, and now you're in Target, right?
Yeah, and I think it was Sid Tetro here in Utah, and she said, I think at an event or something, that if you have a seat at the table, pull up a chair for someone to join you. Yeah, and I love that, and we've had so many people do that for us. I mean, Cherie being at the Target table and pulling up a chair for us. Yeah. And so, we
and Sid's really great at that too. This has been a fun episode because we got a lot of really cool shout outs and a lot of really cool people who are building Utah and building a really cool ecosystem. Okay, well, here's where we end up. Where do you go from here? What's the total world domination plan?
Let's hear it.
Our
SadieB for dudes. Like, when are you coming out with my line?
I know. We do get, that's probably our second most asked question behind, why is it SadieB?
Our goal for SadieB and our vision for SadieB is to become the #1 personal care brand for girls. And so Target, that's why we say Target is just the beginning for us. We want to expand into retail to be as accessible to girls as possible. The product and most importantly, the message and the mission, and really build our impact program. We're on our way to becoming B Corp certified, and building our impact program to make a real difference in supporting girls' mental health and tackling that crisis. So that's where we see ourselves. We definitely see expansion in product as well, starting with hair care and then down the line from there, but becoming the #1 personal care brand for girls.
I love it. I almost forgot, but I want to give you guys a chance to talk about the foundation, and you're working with, it's called Girls Up?
Girl Up.
Girl Up. Okay, yeah. Girl Up, and that's from the UN?
Yes.
Okay, let's talk about that for just a second before we wrap up.
Yeah, it's a UN foundation, and so before we had even launched SadieB, we had the opportunity to meet with the executive directors of Girl Up who were in town. They were meeting with Davis Smith, who was one of the first members of our board. And so
did he invite you to a meeting or something? Oh, that's cool.
Which obviously was so kind and generous. And so we went to them and really pitched our brand and pitched a partnership between Girl Up and SadieB. And they were on board from the beginning. So we had a nonprofit partner before we
kind of even launched. Really. That's so cool.
Before we even had a prototype, like a digital prototype of the bottle. We partnered with them.
But that's so amazing because what's super legit is that you guys had the purpose and the mission way before the product. Yeah. This isn't like one of those stories, and I won't mention any names, but like a product, and then they're kind of like looking for a mission just to kind of get the props for like being like mission driven. You guys were clear about the mission, clear about the purpose well before, and even had established this relationship. But that's so cool. It's like before you even built anything, we're like, this is why we're doing this, and it resonated with them, right?
Yeah.
That's awesome. Girls, this has been amazing. It's been so fun to have you on. Thanks for coming in. I appreciate you taking the time. I'm excited to see SadieB like just take over the world. And I'll just have this tiny piece of history where I'm like, they were still really young and they just barely got into Target and they were on my podcast. And it was such a cool story. And then you guys will be like world famous. And I'll be like, yeah, that was so fun to see them way back in the day.
So nice.
You have a lot of great mentors, a lot of people who've helped you out. And I'll give, shout out to mad props to all those who've been there to help support you. And I think it's cool. Then that will enable you and other people that join your company to turn around, and like it just kind of has this exponential like positive ripple effect, right?
Yeah, we hope it will. We're gonna make sure it does. We'll definitely are so inspired by the people who've helped us, and we want to turn around and do that for other people and other girl founders. So
super cool. Thanks for coming.
Thanks for having us.